And just like that, Hurricane Sally is now 6 miles an hour away from being a Category 2 storm as it crawls its way towards the Gulf Coast. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Panhandle still all at play. This thing's moving slower than you and I walk. Unless, of course, you're just a fast walker. But we have Hurricane Sally, almost a Category 2 storm, 90-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 986 millibars in pressure. Look at the speed we are moving with this storm. West-northwest at 6 knots, 7 miles an hour. Like I said, that's like walking from the Gulf to land. And, of course, the issue with this is the fact that the storm will be sitting over open, warm water for 2 extra days, around 36 hours of extra time that we expect the storm to be over water now, which really only leads to one conclusion based on the atmospheric conditions. This storm is only going to get stronger as it approaches land. It will not weaken, in my opinion, at all. In fact, we had a pulse, like a wave, come off this storm, and then about 15 to 20 minutes later is when we were actually given our information about it being a official Category 1 hurricane, almost a Category 2 now. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this energy wave we see come out of this storm, and it's pretty unbelievable. We can see it begin right there. Here is the centralized low pressure area of the storm, otherwise known as the eye. We will see this form probably the next hour or so if it's not forming already, but this was a few hours ago, and I'm going to bring you across the bar here. Watch this wave of energy pulse out from the entire center of the storm out to the ends of it, and then within about 15 to 20 minutes, we got that announcement of the Category 1 storm. Here is that wave. It shoots out right from the middle. We can almost see that perfect circle right in the middle coming out from the wave. That's these thunderstorms exploding and bubbling up from the center and then spreading out over top of the storm. And when you see things like this, we know this storm is getting much, much stronger. In fact, this is rapid intensification. You can see that wave if I move it back and forth. Just check out the force of that wave. Goes right over the Panhandle right there and then hits Alabama, then Mississippi. So we could see that energy pulse is really not something we wanted with this storm, especially the fact that the storm basically just formed in the Bahamas and kind of came out of nowhere while we're keeping an eye on all the storms in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, out of nowhere, Sally has taken over the forefront of the news and could be a major hurricane at landfall. One thing I did mention a few hours ago is that our hurricane warnings would shift to the east, and clearly we now have many areas in Mississippi and Alabama under that purple hurricane warning. Earlier before, it was just the tropical storm warning. Still nothing to mess with. People in the Panhandle need to be on their toes, because if this storm does decide to continue to hook to the east, we could be looking at easily a Panhandle landfall or an Alabama landfall. This is not set in stone that it will be a Louisiana and Mississippi landfall. For all we know, this thing may hook east a lot sooner than projected once it hits land. And also a bit of info that has changed is the model intensity guidance chart. Once I showed you earlier, most of the plots had this thing at a Category 1. We've since become a Category 1 and a high Category 1 at that, almost a Category 2, so we could see many, if not all these plots now have Sally predicted as being at least a Category 2 storm, with some now going into the Category 3 range. One thing we do know about Sally is that it is going to be a big rainmaker. I want you to look at this little pink dot here, kind of centralized to the east of Louisiana and then just underneath Mississippi. This may shift to the east or may expand itself, but just match it up to this chart over here. We're talking 20 plus inches of rain, almost 2 feet of rain expected as of right now with Sally as is. And this is not taking into account the fact that Sally may strengthen. So we may not only be dealing with a severe wind event, almost battling Hurricane Laura if we do reach that Category 3 status, but we're dealing with a much more dense storm as far as rainfall goes. So this thing is going to be pushing water into the coast, raining water all over these states in the Gulf, and producing pretty catastrophic winds. So all of our attention right now, especially for those of you that live in the U.S. and on the Gulf Coast, need to be focusing on this storm. I will be focusing on this storm. I'll be giving little bits and pieces of information that we need to know about the other stuff going on in the Atlantic, but right now Sally is the main concern. I should be going live later tonight, if not tomorrow, a little closer to landfall, so we can keep people that are in these local areas more updated on this significant rainfall and flooding that they will get, certainly. We are certainly living in some unreal times. Just check out this chart once again. We got Sally, Paulette, Renee, Teddy, and Vicky all at the same time. The last time we had 5 named storms at the same time was was in 1971. So hey, why not break another record in this 2020 Atlantic hurricane season? Just an unbelievable amount of information and storms we've been through already. And finally, my friends, if you do live in any of these areas or even semi-close to these areas, you need to be on your toes and constantly updated about this storm as it is constantly changing and strengthening. I want to thank you all for sharing and subscribing to the channel. If you have not already, please do so. Every little bit helps, and I enjoy putting this info out to you. Shout out to Canada, especially Ontario, and shout out to every one of you that have been watching these videos. I will be back shortly. Please stay safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.